Hi, and welcome to another segment of So You Want to Be A. And today we enter the world of rock and roll. Now, it used to be in the 60s and somewhat the 70s. It was that particular three-letter word, rock and roll and drugs and all that sort of thing. Today it's a corporate world, and that may not be so the emphasis. And we're going to be talking to a rock and roll singer-songwriter about what it takes to be a singer-songwriter, the ups, the downs, the inside, the outside, what you might want to do and know, and what you might want to stay away from. Right after this message. Stay tuned. My name is Brian Gardner. I'm the host of an exciting new podcast, So You Want to Be A. Now, I believe that young people are so important to any society, so I want to help them by making sure they know all about an industry or a career path they might want to choose. And the way that you can help me is by contacting me if you have been in a particular industry and would like to share how to be a success, what kind of education is needed, what are the dangers, what are the upsides, what are the downsides. All information that will help young people to know before they go down the path toward a career if this is a career or a job that they would want to go into. And in this way, we will help our young people, we will help our society, and we will provide valuable and fantastic information that would take them years, possibly, to gain if they had to do it on their own. Please contact me so that I can interview you. You can have promotion of your business, of course, but also, most importantly, we will provide factual information to young people about a career path they might be choosing so that they know it's a good path and something that they actually want to do. Please contact me. I will be glad to interview you, and together we will be able to help young people. Thank you very much. Well, welcome to another segment of So You Want to Be A. And today we fill in the blank with rock and roll singer. Before we introduce our guest, I want to say, as we do always, that Franklin Printing is a sponsor of this program, and we thank them very much. And we hope that you'll tell your friends and subscribe and like the show and spread the word, because young people just coming out of high school and people in transition might be interested in watching one or more of these segments about a career path they might be interested in. Well, let's get started today, entering the world of music and rock and roll. And my guest today is Tanguy. Tanguy, welcome to the program.
Hey, rock
Glad
on.
to, glad to have you on. And we'll be talking about what you feel it takes to be involved in music and be successful. But there's a couple of things that caught my eye on the information you provided me about your background. And one of them was you were a sales specialist at a car dealership, and you also have a Master of Business Administration and a Bachelor of Science, which, normally I wouldn't think of rock musicians having this kind of talent and training. But I also enjoy the business side of the business, booking the band that I have and all the administration that takes. So before we get into how you got into being a songwriter, talk to us about, and for people who may be watching who are interested in music, are these things important? Do they help you having these kinds of educational training and ability?
Absolutely, because during my first degree, I'm from France, by the way. My name is Tanguy.
Okay.
I came as a student athlete, and my first degree, really, I learned how to speak English. And the second
Okay.
one, I really focused on business. And pretty much the MBA, it's a lot of skills that you learn, a lot of competencies, but like all the short memory stuff, I probably forgot already. But really, you just learn how to figure stuff out. And music, it's the same thing. You have an
Sure.
idea, a thought, just like a riff, and you're trying to go from that idea to a song, and you have to figure stuff out because it's not the right chord, the right note, the right time, the right instrument, the right player, the right something. So So he basically taught me how to figure stuff out. And then
Right.
my experience as a sales rep for Chevrolet, same thing. Trying to sell a car, you gotta find the right car, find the right customer, or whoever's in front of you. Got to make the most with what you have. So it's the same thing here. I got a few guitars. This is my home studio, by the way. I make the
Okay.
most of what I have. So that's basically what I learned. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
helping me every day.
yeah, I've seen a lot of bands. They have very talented musicians over the years. I've had my band Manzanita for about 17 years, and I've seen fellow musicians in other bands, very talented, but when it came time to talk to the person that was going to hire them, they really didn't have anybody who could talk properly with someone and try to close them on hiring their band. And that was too bad because that isn't a very important part of your band. If you don't have gigs, usually the band will fall apart. People get bored and go on to something else. And so I'm very lucky that I have done a tremendous amount of sales, public relations. I've done Toastmaster, which helps you know how to speak to people and speak to people properly without getting lost and going too far afield with the subject you want to cover with the individual that's in front of you. And many bands, though, do not have that ability. And so I probably will get a big resounding yes, but I want to ask it anyway to drive the point home. Isn't it important to have a command of communication if you're going to be successful? Because you're not always on stage. Sometimes you're dealing with managers, business people, people who are going to hire you, maybe people in the music industry who want to talk to you.
Yes, definitely. Especially at first, you have to be able to sell yourself and sell your passion. So being a salesman definitely helped me. Um, and but I think what's helping me the most is just trying to. When you do music, you just have to be yourself. So that's what I just learned. I mean, my whole life I've been doing a lot of things. I was a distance runner for 10 years in competition. Then I was selling cars for 5 years, and really now I'm starting this rock and roll
Yeah.
full project. And that's the first time in my life I'm like, okay, now I'm really truly doing what's in me and just me. Like that song that I'm doing right now, by the way, that I wrote for my wife. It's called Love of My Life. I feel
Oh,
like if I
wow.
don't finish it, there's never gonna be a song like this. So
Yeah.
that's why I love music, because if I don't find the motivation and the inspiration to finish the song, then there's never gonna be a song like this. So that's why I
You
love
know,
writing, original
yeah,
songs.
I can relate to you because I'm a songwriter for Manzanita. We do my original songs and then we play covers. So I can totally relate to the absolute fun of, you know, songwriting and the process and how exciting it is. I heard one musician talk about when he is writing a song, his staff knows to leave him alone because the reason he can afford the staff is when he's got a song idea and he's connected to that source, whatever it is, he wants to complete that process and doesn't want to be interrupted. Now,
Mhm.
let's go back. We've talked a little bit about some of the things you need. How did you get involved? It looks like you said you started playing guitar when you were 14 years old.
Yes.
And is that how you got started in this interest in music?
Yes, it's basically I saw a few movies, but basically it's when I heard the songs from AC/DC. I mean, I heard the
Oh,
guitar sound, but then I heard the vocals, and I was like, "What is this?" And
yeah.
really, then it got me into the whole song, the whole like rock vibe, and I was like, "I got to start this." And then I saw another movie called School of Rock, where you have
Oh, yeah.
Jack Black doing all this riffs from famous songs, and I was like, "Whoa, that doesn't seem too hard to do." So
Yeah.
first song I learned, and first song I was able to play fully was "Highway to Hell" by AC/DC, which is perfect song to learn. Then
I've
I
played
learned it
that
on the
song
acoustic
before. Yeah.
guitar. So yeah, that's how I started when I was 14, and I started singing later because I was so into the guitar. I didn't even bother trying to sing. I was so passionate about guitar, 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 guitar. It's only when I stopped track and field in 2015, because that was my passion for a while. But it's like every passion sometimes goes down.
Sure.
Then
Ups
I
and downs.
heard a Kiss singing and Guns N' Roses and hitting this really high notes, and I've tried, and I was like, oh, okay, I can hit it too. So so then I started singing. But yeah, I've been playing guitar for like 17 years. I've been singing for 7 years now. So
Okay.
so yeah.
So answer me this. Were you in France when you first heard AC/DC?
Yes, I was in
All right.
France
Now
when I
here's
heard
my big
ACDC.
question. Go ahead.
But that's pretty much
You're
what
in
I heard. Then I
US.
heard Scorpions a lot. I heard Scorpions. I love the lead guitarist. I mean, does an incredible job. But then it was only when I was 21, um, then I heard Motley Crue for the first time. I saw it in Greece, actually, not in France. So I
Okay.
saw Motley Crue and Judas Priest and early Guns N' Roses at a rock bar, which was no rock bars in France. And I really realized I had a connection. And I
Yeah.
remember my friends were not really into rock and roll. They were staying in that restaurant, that pita restaurant, eating pita. And then when they were eating and getting fat, I would just go to that bar on my own and just watch the VH1, music videos. And I was like, this is me right there. So since then, I kept the passion and the dream alive. I just never went all in for it until this year. So I
Okay.
encourage everyone to not wait as I did, but just go for your passion when it's
Sure.
there. You know.
Now, I always had this idea that if you listen to what's currently hot in America, let's say AC/DC is very hot, where we'll go back in time, that there's some sort of lag between that music getting to Europe. But maybe that's not the case. So when you were listening to AC/DC, were we also listening to AC/DC in America?
Um, let's see. So there's two answers to that question. The first one is
Okay.
in 2005, I was listening to AC songs from 1979 and 1980. So not
Oh,
really what
okay.
was on the radio, like
Okay.
they're basically their breakthrough albums. So
Yeah.
I would say that I basically learned, because to me all the best rock and roll music, most of it's from the 80s, some
Yeah.
70s and 90s, but it's basically from the 1980s because that's where people lived in the moment and they were really focused on just writing music and
Sure.
not elsewhere. Second, there's definitely a gap between the US and Europe. I would say there's at least 3 to 6 months. I mean, I
Okay.
remember when Green Day came out, we were at least 6 months to 12 months late. When the Killers came out, same thing. Even Linkin Park. I'm talking these bands because I was alive actually when they came out on the
Right.
radio. But all the bands that I'm into, I wasn't alive. So I'm so grateful to from YouTube. That's how I learned how
Yeah.
to play a guitar. There
Yeah.
was, and I mean, YouTube, just watching players actually play. There's no tutorial or anything. I just learned on
Oh, yeah.
my own,
It's an
and I kept the
amazing
passion alive.
tool.
Yeah.
Amazing tool. So answer me this. Let's say a father and a child or a student and a mother and a student or whatever are watching this interview, and the father or mother naturally is very concerned about the tremendous interest their daughter or son has about going into the music industry, because not everybody makes it. You could try hard, you could have all your points in a row, and you still might not make it. So the parents always say, well, you got to have something to fall back on. Now, I think you might be able to answer that in two ways. You could say, if you have something you're going to fall back on, that means that you're kind of going, I'm not really going to make it. I'll probably end up doing this fallback. Whereas if somebody says, I don't need a fallback, I'm going to make it no matter what, well, they could or could not. Is it important to have some sort of career just in the off chance that you either get tired of touring, tired of rock and roll, and you go, I had my fun with it. Now I'm going to be an accountant because I'm trained as an accountant or a dentist or a doctor. Or should you just go for it, do you think, and be willing to take up a new career if you need one because you don't make it in music? What would be your answer to that?
That's a great question. I think it depends a lot on where you are in your life because
Okay.
you don't have the same responsibilities when you're 18 or
Right.
when you're 45, once you get
Right.
married and have kids. I would say the youngest you are, taking my example, I combined track and field with school. Actually, I stayed in school and I went to go for my bachelor's and everything. So I think combining any passion, well, again, at the time I was doing distance running, but I was able to combine it with school and keeping, being enrolled full time. So I think school is a great education because it keeps you focused, keeps you around people.
Sure.
But again, it depends on your background, depends on who you are. I would say the youngest you are, the more prone you are to be completely all in because then you still have time to fall. And then you're not, when you're 18, you don't have anything. You don't own anything.
Right.
You don't.
Right.
You
Right.
just live in the moment. So So you don't have, you basically have nothing to lose by going all in for your music career, because you can always go back to school, you can always work somewhere, you can, and again, you don't have much to lose. When
Yeah.
you're, 30, 40, 50, to go back all into music, then you start having assets, start having a responsibility, so it's harder. But I would say in the music industry, it's, to me, it's pretty much like track and field. You have to, if you really want to make it, as an original rock artist, or not just rock, as an original artist in the music industry, you have to go all in, because you have to basically live with your songs. You have to breathe your songs, eat, you eat with your songs, you go to the bathroom with your songs. So that's really what I'm doing right now. I mean, that's, and even when I wake up in the morning, first thing I have in mind is my songs, because
Right.
that's the only way you can put all your soul into it. And to me, that's the real way to write. That's the right way to write real music, is to put everything into the creative process.
Now, two questions come from mind from what you said. The first one is, let's say you're not a songwriter, but you're a really good singer or a really good guitarist. Then it's okay still, because if you're a good singer, people would be giving you songs to sing. Or if you're a really good guitarist, you could find yourself in a band where somebody else is writing the songs. You're playing the lead guitar work on that. The other question I have is, and I want you to speak to that. The other question I have is, were your parents supportive of your interest in music?
Okay, so yeah, two part of the answer. First, for your first question, I guess it depends on what your goal is, because
Sure.
it's either you want to be in a cover band or you want to be in an original band. Being an original band, it's a lot more work. It's also a lot more rewarding, but there's a lot
Yeah.
more to lose. So it's,
Right.
sure, if you know how to sing and you can play guitar, you can play for a cover band, perfect. If you really want to make it as an original artist, then you need to basically find a good songwriter that's willing to work with you, because the music industry really rewards the creation. So
Yeah.
I would say, like Elton John, for example, he's worked with a really famous songwriter for his entire life. He was playing the piano, singing, and a songwriter would write songs. Even me, because I don't master English as much because I'm from France, my producer actually co-write the songs with me. So I would say it doesn't hurt to have the songwriter to help you, anyways, even if you're a pure songwriter. And even the singer songwriters, I'm sure they get some help too.
Sure.
Second part of the answer: my parents, were they supportive of the music? No.
How did
No.
you continue then? That leads to the next question. How did you just keep going?
uh, Basically, that I followed track and field and running, because I have a twin brother, and really we're both into music, but we
Okay.
felt a connection, and our whole environment was a lot more supportive into sport, and we were talented enough in running to just start winning races with not too much training. And when we were 17, we had to make a choice between studies, distance running, and music, and we're like, okay, well, we can't keep three, we have to choose two. So I chose distance running, and stay enrolled full time. And I'll say, okay, I'll keep the music just in the background. But I have a poster right there that someone in Oregon gave me. It says, practice the art of adventure by keeping your heart young, your expectations high, and never allowing your dreams to die. So basically, I always kept
What
my
was that
dream
last
alive.
word? Never allowing your dreams to
Die.
die. Okay.
So
I
I
didn't.
always kept the dream alive, even though I was
Yeah.
doing other things. And I think it's, if you really have a calling, no matter what you do, it always comes back in front of you. And that's why I decided to go for it all in, because no matter what I do, I could sell cars, I could do
Yeah.
track and field, I could take a 3-week vacation across the world. My dream always come back in front of me. So that's why I went for it.
Yeah. Now I've got to ask you, was this a twin brother?
Yes, identical twin brother.
Okay. Now be
Um,
honest with us. Did you ever sneak out of the house and your brother played you saying, "No, I'm doing my homework. I didn't go to the rehearsal."
So
Did you
my
ever
brother
try
is
that
into
one?
music, but he's into house music, like DJ, like
I know, but
European stuff.
did you ever do a switcheroo on your parents? No, you didn't do
None of my parents, but on a few at school, sometimes we would play
that. Yeah,
around.
yeah,
I wanted to do it with girlfriends, but he said no.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That would be the fun
That's
one.
where he drew the line, right? So forget
Yeah,
it.
he was like no, 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 and he was kind of dating the cutest girl in high school, and I was like, oh, do you want to switch for a night? But he said no.
Yeah, that's funny. So now here's the other key thing to ask. What person, what personality type, what would make a person who you would say, look, Sally, Dave, I know you want to do this, but really there's a few things missing you don't have that I think you're not going to, make it in music. What are the things that would make a person who isn't good for this kind of career?
To me, it's the passion has to be like all in. You have to be so passionate about it that even if the whole world is against you, you have to still believe in yourself. And that to me is the one thing to have. I mean, some people call it drive. Yeah, drive too. You
Right?
have to have the passion to believe in yourself and really believe in why you're doing music. And also you have to have the drive to show up every day and basically, yeah, put your talents to work and finish a song, like finish songs, have a final product that people can just go in the car, turn on their CD or radio or streaming and just turn it on and have a final product that they can hear. So you have to have, I think that, yeah, both really high passion and drive. If you're missing one of them, it's going to be hard. So basically, that's good
Go
news
ahead.
because anyone can do music.
Yeah.
So you just have
What
to have the
other
drive and the passion.
talents? Yeah. What other talents do you feel are really important to have so you are a well-rounded individual that can handle whatever the music industry might throw at you, and you'll be able to handle it? What other maybe 2 or 3 talents do you feel are very important?
I think you have to have like tough skin. Basically, you can't just let the critics or anyone criticizing or because even if you do the best songs in the world, there's always going to be people like criticizing, haters and lovers. So you have to have tough skin, which is not something you learn at school. You just have to basically
Right.
through life experience, and also I think you have to have some kind of business side to go from the creative process to how am I going to make money with the music.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, even with a master's degree, I'm still figuring this out because now it's a lot different than the 80s. You have social media involved a lot, and you have everyone putting their music online. So it's a lot different world out there. So I would say, yeah, these two.
All right. Now that begs another question because in the 60s and 70s and 50s, toward the 70s, it started tapering off. But let's take the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Artists were selling actual physical 45s and records, and that's how they got their money. Yes, they went out on tour, but now hasn't it switched over to the point where if you're going to make money as a musician, you're either going to be on a TV show as a guest or you're going to get out there on tour 8 months a year because nobody sells an item with your music on it anymore. Really, it's online. People can listen to it. They can buy into a monthly service. But what I've heard, and I want you to speak to it, is that touring is the way musicians make money now.
Absolutely. It's anywhere from 50 to 90% of revenues for artists. So it depends on how much you tour, basically. Merchandise too. It's mostly touring. Touring is number one. Number two is merchandise. So T-shirts, any kind of merchandise. Like a band like Kiss is really good at selling their stuff.
By the way, I
And
wore a shirt that I
yeah.
think you would appreciate today, with
Oh yeah,
guitars.
yeah.
So
I
yeah,
have a nice one too.
hey,
Attitude
I
and
like it.
everything.
Yeah, there we go. Attitude. Yeah. So then touring opens up another question. People have to face the fact that if they are going to make it into the middle level or the high level of music, they're going to be on tour, 8 months out of the year away from their family, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on every band what they want to do, but
Sure.
basically, I think it's 50%, about 50-50 recording and songwriting and releasing an album, and then the next 50% is touring and playing live, and then, but it doesn't mean it's 6 months. 6 months, it could be a whole year or year and a half on an
Yeah.
album, and it could be touring for 3 years, then a little
Year.
break. And I mean,
Did
it's
you
not.
say 3? You said
Yeah, I
3
mean,
years.
that's just an example. What I'm saying is, it doesn't mean it's going to be 6 months, 6 months even. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
overall, if you're going to average someone's career, it's probably around 50%, 50%. But bands that are well established, they don't write songs anymore because people want to hear their famous hits. So and especially now because live music it's how they make money. I mean,
Right.
take bands like
And
Metallica, for example, or Guns N' Roses, all they do is touring because people pay the premium to see these bands because they're still rocking.
right. So, I mean, a young person watching this might think, oh, I'm just going to move to LA I'm going to write some songs. They'll love my songs. I'll be able to stay in LA, just play music there. And that's why I feel this show is so important for all kinds of different careers, because it isn't always this beautifully flower-lined path that you get to walk in perfect weather, perfect lighting. There's going to be some big challenges and some, man, you've been on tour for 8 months and you want to go home. You got 3 more months of the tour and you've signed your name that you're going to show up for these gigs, right?
Yep.
Wow. So
I would say if you move to Los Angeles, I almost did, but basically you have to be okay to be almost homeless for a while before you make it. I mean, if you look at in the history of rock and roll, all the bands that made it in the Sunset Strip scene, they're all super broke, and then all of a sudden they basically succeeded. Right. So that's actually why I didn't go to Los Angeles, because I didn't want such an extreme way to make it, and also because we're in 2022, so now it's a little different. Back then, bands really needed to network together and start a band first, and then touring to hope to see someone from a record company, and then start recording and put their name out. Basically, find an investor. Versus now, anyone. That's actually why I think the music is not as good as back in the day, because anyone can write music now. You just buy any software, start recording music, and put it on social media, and there you go, you got an album. So I would say you don't need to go to Los Angeles, especially, or even New York, or you can start. I would say there's no perfect time to start. It's never going to be the perfect time. I think what matters is to start now. Start in your bedroom. And there's actually a lot of successful people. All they do is they have a home studio and they do amazing songs from the home studio. So it's a trade-off. Again, it depends on who you are and what you want to do, and if you want to play in a cover band or original band, or it depends on your style of music too. It depends if you plan to play with people or by yourself. So I would say every case is different.
Yeah. So I have a couple of anecdotes by 2 different musicians who are very famous, and they're both really interesting. I saw James Taylor interviewed, and he had a recording unit sitting on his coffee table. And they said, well, when you write a song, what do you do? He says, well, I use this unit. He says this unit, it was about as big as maybe half of a pizza box. And he says, this unit is 2 steps above where I recorded my first album back in the 60s or whatever, And it's this tiny unit that he can record and do overdubs and everything, overdubs being singing with himself. And then the other thing I saw, which was very tragic, I've never seen a musician lose it like this. I had front row seats for Stephen Stills back in the 70s with his group Manassas. This was in Berkeley, and they took a break, and some guy ran up on the stage, grabbed Stephen Stills' guitar and started playing one of his songs, and the security came out and stormed him off, drug him off the stage, and Stephen Stills came out and said, who's playing my guitar? And the audience started booing Stephen Stills, and I expected him to ignore the audience because no one should run up on the stage and grab somebody's guitar. But Stephen Stills turned to the audience, and this is exactly what he said. He goes, why don't you try being in Greenwich Village without a set and see how you like it? And he walked off the stage, and I had front row seats. He practically spit on me. But all of the pain and all of the upset from all the years when he was just scrounging around with nothing to eat, no place to live, came out in that moment. But I had never seen a performer lose it like that. But I understood how he was so upset,
I think you have to have the guts to do it too, because the entire audience, the promoters, the band, everyone is expecting the show, and all of a sudden you tell the audience to basically go pants down and go walk off stage. But you have to have guts to make it in the music industry too. You have to go for it, and like I said, you have to have the drive, and that's part of. I mean, if everyone could be a rock star, everyone would be a rock star.
That's the thing. Everybody thinks it's that 3-letter word, drugs and rock and roll. I'm not going to say that word because we have kids watching this, but everybody thinks it's those 3 things. Where's my fingers? There we are. But it's not always limousines and parties and all that.
Oh, no.
I heard from Barbara. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I would say that's probably why actually even though the 1980s is what I love the most, that's probably why
Mhm.
actually the whole thing's collapsed, because the whole image around the rock and roll bands was that, yeah, drugs, rock and roll, and
Mhm.
debauchery, but that's not how you get there. That's actually how you go from the top to all the way to the bottom. So I
Well,
think really what makes someone successful, especially now, because we're not in the 80s anymore, it's not as okay to do drugs and everything. It's passion, drive, hard work, and
right.
dedication, and commitment to success, and commitment to get there no matter what. And it's a lot easier if you're sober. I mean, there's a lot of bands out there. Like if you take a band like Kiss, the main two band members, Paul Stanley
Sure.
and Gene Simmons, they're sober, and that's why they're still touring and at 70 something year old.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
heard that female singers, particularly, but it can be male singers as well, the amount of hours they practice when they are not in front of an audience to make sure their vocal cords will do what they want them to do. People completely forget that in all the glamour and sparkle of being a rock and roll musician. The drummers that spend hours rehearsing, the guitarists that go over their scales, da 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 da. That's not playing. That's something you have to do that's not that exciting, so that when you go up there on stage, your fingers will do what you want them to do, or your vocal cords will. And I think that that's something that people forget. I can't wait to interview a basketball star,
Yeah.
because people also have the idea, oh yeah, parties, limousines, wow, cool. Yeah, but how competitive is music? How competitive is any of the sports fields where you can get torn up? You could write a bunch of songs, go in, and the producer or the record company or whoever you're trying to pitch them to goes, are you kidding me? This crap you want me to buy? Are you kidding? And you've
Yeah.
just poured your heart into these songs you've written, and they just got treated like they were flypaper.
Yeah, and it takes 20 seconds to do that.
Right.
That's why you
And
have to put all your hard work, and especially at the beginning of the song, because these people never have time to listen to your song. So you have like 30
well,
seconds at most.
they
So you have
get
to have your song has got to be amazing.
they get 800 songs a day.
Oh yeah, it's
And,
ridiculous. Yeah.
it's similar to when George Lucas was looking for the person to play Princess Leia. I read a book about him. He looked at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of female actresses until Carrie Fisher did something. They went, she's the one.
Mhm.
Well, you send in your songs and they listen to 13 seconds of it. And the ones who get signed, whoa, 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 what's that? In that 13 seconds, that song grabbed them.
Yep.
Or the actor did these lines and they went, whoa, that's the one.
And it's the same for the band players too. That's why even if you, like you said earlier, even if you feel like you can't write your own material, if you're an amazing guitarist, for example, the band Scorpions, they interviewed 100 guitarists to find the one. And now you listen to Scorpion's song. I mean, the lead guitar is insanely good. I mean, it brings up the song like from this level to the roof. So
Yeah.
really, and it's again, it's hard work. That's how Eddie Van Halen got to be so good too.
Yeah.
He says stories that his brother, the drummer, would just go out and come back at 3 in the morning. He would leave at 7 p.m., come back at 3 in the morning, and he would start rehearsing at 7 p.m. And by the time his brother came back home, he was still jamming his guitar. That's how he got so good.
Right.
Practicing 6 hours a day.
Creedence Clearwater used to rehearse from 8 in the morning till 5 at night, take a lunch, Monday through Friday. Then they had the weekend off. And when you went and saw them, they played their songs really good. They had worked and worked to get those songs. So those four individuals could play together and become one, really, because that's what it takes. You think about a band with 7 people, they've got to hit the marks together. Otherwise, the band sounds terrible, So with about a minute left or so, give us anything else because this show is not about discouraging people from being a dentist, a doctor, a candlestick maker, a baker, or a rock musician or a singer. We're not about discouraging people. We just go, hey, here's what you're going to do. And if they're tough enough, they'll say, Dad, I watched the 30-minute interview. I'm not scared. I still want to do it. But give us any other advice finally in the last minute here for somebody watching who might want to go seriously into the music industry?
I would say whatever your passion is, just go for it. If
Right.
it's
You mentioned,
music, if it's being if it's law, if it's being a doctor, if it's being an engineer, if it's being selling cars. I'm just saying from my own experience, but whatever
sure,
it is, whatever unique gift that you have that no one else can really give away to the world, just
right,
go for it. And early, it's so many
sure,
people, including me, like spend 5 years doing something else because we didn't believe in ourselves in the first place.
yeah,
Just go for it and
yeah.
see what happens. If you never
Well,
try, you never know. If you never try, you never know.
yeah, thank you for being on the show. How would you like people, either who want to hear your music or maybe ask you a few extra questions, how would you like people to be able to reach you? What do you want to give, if anything at all, of how people can contact you?
You can go on my social media page,
Okay,
or you
give
can.
that to us twice.
I'm sorry.
Give me that twice.
Yeah, you can go on the social media page. It's Tanguy, Tanguy, or you can let's see, or send me an email if you want it. It's first dot last name at Gmail, but I'll put a description. I'll put it in the description.
Yeah, just go ahead and say both those slowly again, because we don't have it up on the screen. So just spell that and say it slowly again, please.
Yeah. So social media page is it's spelled Tanguy.
Okay,
Tanguy. It's
and then your
actually shows on the bottom of
email.
the screen. It's
Oh,
it's
maybe you're seeing it. I'm not seeing it here. Okay, so your email again.
Tanguy .pepiot at gmail.com.
Excellent. Well, listen, thank you, and I hope that you'll be able to see my band play. I certainly want to see you perform. So keep in touch, and thank you for being on the program. We want to thank Franklin Printing for being a sponsor of So You Want to Be a fill in the blank. And make sure that you subscribe and share and let your friends know. And if you would like to be a guest on my program, not only to promote your business, but to talk about the career that you have done to enlighten young people and people in transition about the ups and downs and what's required to be successful in any particular career, please contact me. My home office number is 702 912 0687. Again, that's 702 912 0687. I'm your host, Brian Gardner. Thank you for watching, and please watch again.